David Gilmour is not a man who needed to scream to be heard. In an era when rock music often equated volume, spectacle, and bravado with significance, he chose a subtler, quieter path, one defined not by flamboyance, but by patience, precision, and emotional truth. His guitar does not demand attention through technical fireworks. It compels attention because it speaks to the heart. The two-part solo on Comfortably Numb, for instance, is not merely a display of skill. It is a conversation with the listener's emotions, a moment of vulnerability and transcendence that stops millions of fans in their tracks. Gilmour's impact is the result of quiet mastery, an insistence on honesty, and a belief in the communicative power of music itself. His story is less about fame or spectacle, and more about how subtlety, patience, and emotional integrity can resonate louder than any fanfare. Early life, a childhood of quiet observation. David Gilmour was born on March 6, 1946, in Cambridge, England, a city infused with intellectual tradition, where the shadows of history seem to linger in every lecture hall and cobblestone street. His father, Dr. Douglas Gilmour, was a respected zoologist and lecturer, while his mother, Sylvia Wilson, worked as a journalist and later taught film studies. Growing up in this environment offered David every material advantage, access to knowledge, stability, and exposure to ideas. But it also fostered a quiet solitude. His parents were devoted to their work, focused more on intellectual pursuits than on emotional expression, leaving David to navigate the nuances of life largely on his own. Though there was no dramatic trauma, the absence of warmth and overt attention shaped his introspection, teaching him to observe, reflect, and find meaning in silence. These early years cultivated a sensitivity and self-reliance that would later manifest in the emotional depth of his music. School years. Discovering music as sanctuary. At school, David often felt apart from his peers. He attended Percy School and later the Cambridge College of Arts and Technology, where he did not fully align with traditional academic or social expectations. Grades and popularity mattered little to him. Instead, he immersed himself in creative pursuits, reading, sketching, and most importantly, music. His earliest influences ranged widely, from American rock and roll icons like Elvis Presley and the Everly Brothers to folk and Chicago blues, each sound expanding his understanding of melody and emotion. At 10, his mother gifted him a guitar, and without formal lessons or mentors, he taught himself using instruction books, radio, and endless practice. Hours alone in his room became transformative, a sanctuary where he could explore feelings and experiences through sound rather than words. Music was not merely a hobby, it was a refuge, a way to articulate the complexity of his inner life. Meeting Syd Barrett, a defining connection. While studying at art school, David met Syd Barrett, a fellow student whose creativity and charisma would define the early identity of Pink Floyd. Barrett's energy was flamboyant and unpredictable, while David's was calm and deliberate. Together, their personalities complemented one another. They spent long hours jamming, experimenting with blues, and discussing the philosophical dimensions of sound and emotion. Barrett's intensity and impulsiveness could ignite the imagination of a room, while David's subtle, grounded approach provided stability, allowing creative sparks to flourish without being consumed by chaos. Though Barrett's tenure in Pink Floyd would be brief, their collaboration profoundly shaped David's musical trajectory, instilling an understanding of how music could balance spontaneity with structure and emotion with restraint. Early career, from modest beginnings to musical responsibility. In the late 1960s, David navigated a period of uncertainty, performing in small bands and living modestly while honing his craft. Money was tight and opportunities scarce, yet his talent was undeniable. Every note he played carried a rare emotional precision, a capacity to evoke feeling without fanfare. In 1967, as Syd Barrett's mental health struggles intensified, Pink Floyd faced a critical juncture. David was brought in initially as a supporting guitarist to cover for Barrett during live performances. When Barrett officially departed in 1968, Gilmour inherited not only guitar duties, but also the responsibility of carrying forward the subtle emotional core that had defined the band's early sound. He assumed this role quietly, never asserting dominance, instead allowing the music to speak for him and shaping the band's evolving identity with patience and integrity. Forging Pink Floyd's sound, the early albums. David's contributions to early Pink Floyd albums, such as A Saucerful of Secrets, 1968, More, 1969, Ummagumma, 1969, and Medal, 1971, revealed a guitarist capable of balancing technical skill with emotional resonance. His solos on tracks like Echoes transformed extended instrumental passages into living, breathing landscapes of feeling. Critics initially saw the band as a continuation of Barrett's vision, yet David's influence became undeniable. He was shaping a sound that was as much about atmosphere and subtlety as it was about melody. These early years were marked by experimentation, meticulous attention to tone, and a deep respect for the music's emotional power. Gilmour's artistry was less about self-display and more about conveying emotion, a principle that would define his career. Rise to prominence. Dark Side of the Moon. By the time The Dark Side of the Moon was released in 1973, David Gilmour had become central to Pink Floyd's identity. While he did not conceive the album's concepts or write the lyrics, his guitar work provided the emotional resonance that transformed abstract ideas into experiences deeply felt by listeners. From the ambient echoes to the gentle bends and sustained notes, his playing communicated feelings that words could not capture. The album's success was not the result of sudden stardom, but of years of meticulous growth, collaboration, and patience. In this period, David demonstrated the power of subtle influence. A musician who, through quiet excellence and unwavering focus, could shape the emotional heart of a band that millions would come to revere. Artistic peak, Shine on You. Crazy Diamond and Wish You Were Here. The mid-1970s marked Pink Floyd's artistic peak, with albums like Wish You Were Here and Shine on You Crazy Diamond reflecting both personal history and musical maturity. David's solos became narratives in themselves, translating grief, longing, and nostalgia into sound. On Shine on You Crazy Diamond, his guitar evokes the presence of Syd Barrett, capturing absence and memory with a delicacy that transforms technical skill into profound human expression. In Wish You Were Here, his playing conveys the universal ache of missing someone or something lost to time, illustrating his mastery of storytelling through music. Each note becomes an emotional bridge between the personal and the universal, allowing listeners to inhabit spaces of reflection and empathy. Navigating internal tensions. Amid creative triumph, internal tensions within Pink Floyd grew, particularly between David and Roger Waters. Waters' increasingly political and conceptual focus often contrasted with David's emotionally driven, intuitive approach. On albums like Animals, this dynamic played out subtly. Waters' lyrical intensity met Gilmour's haunting, understated guitar narratives. Tracks such as Dogs demonstrate his ability to weave intricate emotional subtext into the music, inviting introspection and feeling rather than demanding attention. David's response was not confrontation, but expression, letting his music communicate what words could not, creating a dialogue between contrasting artistic visions while maintaining coherence and emotional depth. The Wall, Comfortably Numb. With the release of The Wall in 1979, much of the spotlight fell on Waters' concept and lyrics. Yet, it was David Gilmour's solos, particularly on Comfortably Numb, that elevated the album to timeless status. This two-part solo is a masterclass in emotional communication. Each sustained note conveys vulnerability, longing, and transcendence. Technical prowess exists here, but only to serve feeling. In an industry often defined by virtuosity for its own sake, Gilmour's approach reminds us that music resonates most when it mirrors human emotion, speaking directly to the listener's inner life. His contribution to The Wall exemplifies the quiet power of subtlety, patience, and sincerity in artistic expression. Leading, Pink Floyd, post-Waters era. After Roger Waters departed in 1985, many assumed Pink Floyd's story had concluded. Instead, David assumed a quiet leadership role, preserving the band's legacy while asserting his own artistic voice. Albums such as A Momentary Lapse of Reason and The Division Bell illustrate his capacity to guide without spectacle, blending reflection, harmony, and subtle innovation. Tracks like High Hopes reflect on time, memory, and transformation, offering a meditative farewell to previous chapters while celebrating continuity. Gilmour's leadership was understated but transformative, demonstrating that patience, humility, and deep listening can sustain creative institutions just as effectively as forceful personalities. Solo career. Articulating a personal voice. David's solo work offers a window into his personal artistry beyond Pink Floyd. His debut album, David Gilmour, 1978, is introspective, blues-inflected, and quietly assertive, revealing a musician exploring emotional landscapes on his own terms. Later works, including About Face, 1984, allowed him to experiment with more assertive ideas, balancing exploration with subtlety. On an Island, 2006, marked a profound intimacy, featuring lyrics by his wife Polly Sampson and exploring themes of love, family, and reflection. Rattle That Lock, 2015, expanded this palette further, blending rock, jazz, and ambient influences while maintaining the deep emotional resonance characteristic of his style. Across his solo catalogue, Gilmour demonstrates that music need not shout to be heard. Sincerity and patience carry far more weight than spectacle. Live performances. Music as ritual. David's live performances from Live at Gdansk, 2006, to Live at Pompeii, 2017, embody his philosophy of music as reflection, ritual, and connection. Whether accompanied by full orchestras or performing in intimate settings, he transforms concerts into shared emotional experiences. His playing is cinematic, meditative, and profoundly human, emphasizing atmosphere and storytelling over technical display. Audiences experience music not as entertainment alone, but as a living dialogue, a space for introspection and communal feeling. Here, the artist's values, empathy, patience, and emotional honesty manifest fully, illustrating how performance can transcend the stage to touch the listener deeply. Personal life. Quiet. Foundations. David Gilmour's personal life mirrors his artistic approach, private, reflective, and principled. His first marriage to American artist Ginger Gilmour provided stability amid the demands of Pink Floyd's rise. After their amicable separation, he married Polly Sampson in 1994, forming a creative and personal partnership that has endured for decades. Polly's lyrical contributions to his solo work have enriched his musical expression, enabling him to explore intimacy, family, and reflection with subtlety. Their home life, largely shielded from public scrutiny, offers a sanctuary for creativity, personal growth, and enduring relationships. Principles and integrity. Gilmour's life is defined by alignment between personal ethics and artistic expression. He consistently acts with kindness, thoughtfulness, and discretion, whether advocating causes, supporting loved ones, or contributing to philanthropy, such as through the auction of his iconic black Strat for charitable purposes. He does not seek accolades or public attention. His decisions are guided by principle. In a world often driven by spectacle, Gilmour's integrity demonstrates that quiet, deliberate action and consistent values can leave a more lasting impact than flamboyance or self-promotion. Legacy and influence. David Gilmour's legacy is as profound as it is understated. He redefined the role of the guitar in rock, emphasizing emotional resonance over technical display. From Time to Comfortably Numb to Shine on You Crazy Diamond, his solos communicate directly with the heart, inspiring musicians including Mark Knopfler, John Frusciante, Ed O'Brien, and Steven Wilson. Beyond technique, he co-created Pink Floyd's cinematic, emotionally immersive soundscapes, producing albums that remain timeless and transformative. His quiet influence, grounded in humility, patience, and emotional clarity, serves as a model for artists and listeners alike, demonstrating the enduring power of subtlety and sincerity. Conclusion. The silence that speaks. David Gilmour never pursued legend for its own sake. Instead, he achieved it through quiet mastery, unwavering focus, and uncompromising honesty. In a rock world dominated by spectacle and ego, he demonstrated that stillness, emotional honesty, and subtlety can resonate more powerfully than noise or flash. His music teaches patience, empathy, and reflection, reminding listeners that true connection often emerges from silence, nuance, and attentiveness. Each sustained note, every carefully shaped phrase, conveys volumes that words cannot match. David Gilmour's legacy is not measured in accolades or headlines, but in the quiet capacity to make the world pause, reflect, and feel. In every note, he shows that depth, integrity, and subtle beauty are not only enduring, they are timeless.